everybody. Thank you for attending this session on, in short, mobile Drupal. I have been giving presentations on mobile Drupal already for the last 2 years. And every time I can manage to make the presentation more narrow, going more into a niche of mobile and Drupal. And I have a bunch of slides, and maybe next time I should just talk about mobile and views, mobile panels. So I will go through a lot of content. There's a lot of text, so afterwards you can read about what I've said here. So in these 2 years, there are definitely some big trends that happened. While when I started 2.5 years ago with mobile, I always tried to sell mobile, was working for a company that did mobile stuff. We were talking about transcoding desktop sites. We were more talking about Nokia, Symbian, support for lower-end devices. While these days, we're talking more about HTML5, CSS3. Android is getting huge. Also, people sitting here are already solved to mobile, I guess. Everybody has something in mind or is already building some mobile stuff and just needs some more knowledge. So there are a lot of things going on. It's a really fast moving space. So quickly about me, I moved into the Drupal space, I think around 2005, and I started with music and Drupal and music, sheet music. And in 2009 I moved from Belgium to New York, where I started working for a Belgian mobile startup. And our mission was to create tools for developers to make mobile websites. And I tried to find a way to help Drupal developers make mobile sites. So maybe some of you who were around 2010 in the mobile sphere know of Osmobi. It was kind of a tool that allowed you to easily make mobile websites, but too bad the startup ceased to exist. In 2010 I became a full-time Drupal consultant, did a lot of Drupal work. We pioneered a lot of mobile sites for big clients, AT&T, Johnson & Johnson, and also some smaller ones. And now I'm at Consumer Search, and that's the department of the New York Times and About.com. And we also focus a lot on mobile. I maintain some modules. Remember, mainly mobile tools. That's a heavily used module that can help you in building a mobile site or can help you in prototyping mobile sites. Some of you who have used mobile tools will know that it has a lot of functionality, a lot of features, and maybe you don't need all these features. So you can use mobile tools, or you can just take some ideas out of it. For me, it was always a kind of a box where I experimented with, tried to see how far I can go with Drupal and mobile. Wordful can be useful to do device detection in Drupal. The other modules are fairly low key, not a lot of users, but in case you're interested in one of these, always looking for co-maintainers. So quickly, Consumer Search, we are, like I said, part of About.com and the New York Times. We focus on bringing information to users about consumer goods. We have a big editorial team. We try to make high quality content. And of course, we have a mobile website that we built in 2011. And the basic idea is people search everywhere when they need information about products. So you can always go to the website. Definitely if you're from the US, can be kind of interesting. However, not too much about that, more about Drupal. Just some numbers. We are a very high traffic site, and actually we saw a doubling of mobile traffic in the last year. The growth has been steadily. There are no big changes in the last year. Having a mobile site, strangely, did not increase traffic. And at this point, we don't have too much data about like revenue generated by the mobile sites. We know we get more revenue per click, but typically people click less on mobile. So that's the only statistics I really can share here about mobile and what effect it has on our business. Very short on some specificities on our site. You could be interested in these kind of things. We use one URL for both mobile and desktop. There's no real big reason why we do that. It's just very transparent for the user. So we chose that way. You cannot go wrong at this point with choosing 2 URLs neither. There are some discussions in the SEO world, but you can choose. We rely heavily on Akamai. Akamai is an edge caching solution. So there's a very specific case where we have to do a lot of mobile configuration there, so that's not really Drupal related. We have our own mobile team where we do a lot of template overrides, really a lot. So it's and we do a one-to-one mapping of each mobile desktop page to mobile page, and we get rid of as much as possible the default JavaScript, CSS, and we gradually build the mobile site. So some pages are still not mobile friendly, so we just give the desktop site. So these are like the highlights of how we build the site. I'm going to cover a lot more things that are general Drupal that are not covered by our site. So yeah, we chose to make a mobile site first. One of the big reasons is just the reach. It's easy to get a lot of people with the browser. You can easily tweet about stuff, and URLs open a browser. URLs don't open an app that easily. So that's why we definitely choose a website first. Also mail communication, we send out a lot of newsletters. So the moment somebody clicks on one of the links, he goes to the mobile site. It's very easy. It can be a reason why you choose mobile websites above a mobile app. We're also building a mobile app as like a complementary strategy for some specific tasks and interactions. We're really going to narrow down what our site does, and we're going to think hard, what's the mobile user doing, what is essentially his mobile usage. But this will be a very niche kind of fun interaction, complementary to the website. So let's talk mobile and Drupal. So the difficult thing in preparing this kind of presentations is there are many phases to mobile, and probably people have different expectations on this presentations too. We had this morning already in this room a presentation on responsive design, media queries. I hope you attended this session. It was very interesting, and I'm not going to cover that. So if you really expect this, you won't see it here. There's a lot of talk about native versus browsers, offline applications, JavaScript frameworks, Sensor Touch, jQuery are very well known. Cross-platform development using PhoneGap, Accelerator. So you could create sessions about each of these topics. So I will try to focus really on, let's see if it's, no, on views, panels, context, and some basic Drupal stuff. So having all these phases of mobile, of course, when you start building something mobile, you need to have a strategy. So you cannot just say, okay, I'm going to use JavaScript framework and build on that, or I'm going to want to use iOS. You really have to think very well on what you want to build. So simply put, you can ask yourself a couple of questions. Is it just, do you need to support many devices, low-end devices? Do you want to be able to have people going to your website from a Twitter or from an email? What are the technologies you use? What are your budgets? Do you want something very graphical that swipes and that twirls? Or is it really content-driven, like CMS, people navigate through lists? So you just have to define some kind of strategy, and from there you choose technology. Again, very simply put, if you just want to have this dedicated iPhone app and you want to revenue from these app stores, like you create a game, you of course think of iOS and Drupal services. Cross-platform, if you need that reach, maybe have a look at frameworks like Accelerator, PhoneGap, and of course Drupal services. Browser-based, you have different requirements, and if you want to have this one site that goes to tablets and mobile phones, you can use responsive and adaptive designs. And this can be, for example, a cheaper solution. It's could be easier to maintain. So first think of these things. Once you have like the strategy, Drupal comes into play later after you also defined what the product should look like. And then there's these typical steps. I'm not going to discuss these steps here, but you know that you have to make sure that it's usable, that you have to have some special interaction design, and you need dedicated people to think about these things. You have to architect like a normal website, implement and do some testing, And definitely testing for mobile needs some specific knowledge on emulators, real device testing, test banks, because there's so many devices you can test on. So what I'm trying to do here is just talk a little bit more about these core Drupal components. Whenever you build a Drupal site, you will use views, you will use context. In my case, I often use views, often use context. I see this as very easy extensions to my modules I use. I tend to use panels now a lot for mobile. It has some nice features. And of course, theming layer can use a lot of overrides. Caching is very specific in Drupal and mobile, and Multisite can help too. So yeah, in the Drupal community, we all know Drupal is getting hot. A lot of sessions about mobile, and DrupalCon Denver, as far as I know, will specifically focus also on Drupal. Mainly what you will find within the Drupal community in the modules are a lot of device detection modules helping you to detect, is it a mobile device? They do it based on different parameters like user agent strings. It's like the most used one. Theme switching, whenever there's a mobile device. Advanced redirection schemes, you always want to direct a mobile user to the mobile site first, but you also want to allow the user to go back to the desktop site so he gets the full view. So there's some stuff there too. There are mobile themes. There's Fusion Mobile, one I can definitely recommend if you want to start building mobile sites, or you can just build from scratch, use Zen or adapt your own theme. And there's a lot of integration with these modules like context panels, views that are really driving a lot of the development. They make Drupal easy from time to time. Another important distinction you have to make when you start making a mobile site is on top, do you want to make a mobile version of your desktop site? Expect that this is a lot more complex than just making a mobile-only site. Making mobile-only sites is more like building a normal site. You just make it nice looking on mobile devices or on tablets. But the moment you have these views, you have these content types, you have these templates, and a lot of tables, or contrib modules that use tables and their template files, you have to look around, you have to override templates. So it's more work, and it can be a lot, sometimes kind of hackish if you have like these old sites that already provides a lot of functionality. Sometimes you see sites that use functionality because there's a module for it. An example are spaces and groups where you can have a dashboard where administrators can dynamically lay out their websites. Once you want to have this mobile, it's really hard, that's not to say impossible, within normal budgets. So when you have a basic ID, well, you can start architecting your site. So an easy architecture when you want to create an application, iPhone app, Android app, or use a JavaScript framework, you often end up with this kind of simple architecture where you use Drupal, core and contrib modules, and you use the services API. In this presentation, I also assume intermediate levels, so that services API is module is a module that helps you exposing functionality of your website in the form of REST services or XML RPC. Like a second kind of website would be, for example, a medium-sized non-profit where you really focus on a big reach. You want to reach a lot of people. However, it doesn't have to be very mobile specific. You really want to reach a lot of people. So that's when you where you can try to create your normal websites and try to have an adaptive, responsive template where you just serve everything from one team. This is very simple. And then a more advanced configuration could be where, for example, a product company. It's very important for a product company that when they provide something on mobile, it also looks good, it's very user-friendly. So they have to take into account the mobile user a lot. So there's where we typically tend to create 2 templates. That's what we've done on consumer search. That's what I've been implementing with a lot of clients, is trying to reuse one Drupal database, reuse core contrib modules, but try to find a way where with mobile templates you can direct a mobile user. So this is still very easy to set up, and you can manage to have a very good mobile user experience. However, since you have to compromise between desktop and mobile, there are some trade-offs. So it's not a mobile-first approach. So it's sometimes usability can be less good there. And then one of the use cases we had was a bigger hospital. There the case was there was a lot of content, and they also wanted a lot of mobile-specific functionality. So they did not want a one-on-one mapping from mobile, desktop to mobile, but they really wanted to have 2 strategies. And that's where you can consider a more advanced Drupal architecture. It's where you use a multi-site approach, meaning you use 2 databases and you let them share some part of the website, mainly users, mainly content. You can maybe share views or whatever, but you try to split out as much of the things as possible, so where you basically provide 2 websites, just sharing some basic stuff. So this is a more advanced configuration. In the long term, it can help you to stay focused on your mobile and desktop and not have the problem where you have to force something that you implement in your desktop into your mobile site. It's a bit harder to set up and maintain. So I guess this is a kind of overview what you can do with Drupal in terms of architecture, how you can split out things and can serve different devices. So when you have these architectures, there's of course all these modules you can use: context panels, views, mobile tools, theming layers. Basically, they're your friends, enemies, depends on what you do. And as an example, I want to go through some of these modules. So just a quick test: who uses context modules for their websites? Okay, that's still a kind of small group. So context module is a very popular module that allows you to configure parts of your site depending on certain contexts. A very easy and very often used example is that you configure the block layouts based on a path in your URL. Meaning that you can, for example, have a homepage, and you say on the homepage, I want to have no blocks in the sidebars. Then you have user page, and you say on the user pages, I want to have certain other blocks, and on your news page, you can have a different configuration. You can also configure breadcrumbs. So context helps you to really lay out and configure your site based on context. So from how it sounds, you can use it to reconfigure your site based on a mobile context or desktop context. So when you use mobile tools, there's a plugin for context that can make your life a lot easier. So where you can say, okay, I want to configure a certain context, and based on that context, I want to have some specific reactions. And to keep it simple, a reaction can be if I'm on a mobile homepage, I don't want to have any blocks. If I'm on a user page and I'm accessing on a mobile device, I want to have other blocks or less blocks than if I'm going from a desktop page. So this is definitely a big help if you want to configure a mobile site. So other tips when you use context module for mobile is that you should work with naming conventions. For example, if you again configure context for your homepage, you could name it this context homepage, and whenever you create a mobile context, you just prefix it with mobile. You can do the same with user pages. You create your normal desktop user context, and whenever you want to have a mobile variant on that, it's recommended to prefix it with mobile, because there's a kind of simple reason. When all your contexts for mobile start with a mobile prefix, you can easily disable your desktop context based on that requirement. And the reason we tend to do that is often you start with a desktop site, and you have this desktop site with a lot of contexts, and you don't want to be too intrusive on your existing desktop contexts. You want to reconfigure every desktop context and saying only use this context if it's a mobile, if it's not a mobile device. So that's why you can easily create a specific rule where you say whenever a mobile context is active, saying it has this prefix to it, don't enable this desktop context. For example, when you have this rule and mobile tools module falls out or someone disables it, it will not disable your desktop context. It will not throw any errors. So it's like a progressive way of start configuring your context. So yeah, this is one of the ways where you can really start reconfiguring, re-layouting your sites without having to code too much. You can create custom blocks, views blocks that you only enable in these mobile contexts. So if you're going that route, saying, okay, I'm going to use context to reconfigure my mobile site, there's one big caveat with context is whenever you start configuring your context, you'll always get, and you configure your blocks, you only get information of your default Drupal theme. So that means if you have a normal Drupal theme with a header, left, right, content, footer, and you would have a mobile site that says something like a mobile header, mobile top, content, mobile footer, it will be hard to configure this with context. So I created a plugin that I'm going to commit to the mobile tools module that's just easily whenever you configure a region that has mobile in the prefix, it will look which is the mobile theme, and it will fetch these regions so you can nicely configure your blocks based on the regions of your mobile theme. So that's something just to look out for. So a second module we often use is views. So often we have the case where this desktop site has a lot of views, and these views have certain paths. So there's always a question, okay, we want to create a more mobile friendly view, meaning we want less data on the views, we don't want a table layout, but we really want to keep the path. So there's no ready way in Drupal to just say, okay, I want to have a mobile variant of a certain view. Whenever there's a mobile device going to that page, show me a different view. So for this, I experimented with creating a plugin to the, and that's committed to the mobile tools module. But you can just look at its code and maybe use it to your own use. And we plugged in into the access rules of views. So what happens with views, you can, like what you see here is a typical part of a view's configuration. And in the left top you see I created a mobile view and a desktop view. And these are two displays of the same view. So now when you enable mobile tools and you click access, you can choose to say, okay, I want to have restrictions based on device. You can say configure mobile access settings, and then you can also say only mobile or desktop devices can view this display of the view. So what happens when views encounters an access to a certain path, for example, if I would go to the overview path, it will first look at the mobile view, the display, I mean, and then it will look at which device is accessing this view. And if I would have configured this, only mobile devices can see this view, and I go there with the desktop browser, then it will say, okay, there's no access to this view. It will just look at the next display available that has the same path. So this way you can easily organize your views. You just make an alternative display of your existing view. You enable this access setting. Some kind of problem with view and access settings is that access settings are not chainable, meaning there are different access plugins for views that could be enabled. So it's not easy to make them work nicely together and chain, okay, I want this view only to be viewable by admins that are on a mobile device. But this already brings you a long way in adapting what you have. So a third module we often use is panels. Same question, who uses panels on their sites? Okay, I think that's like 35% of the room. It's a very short basic introduction to panels. Probably too short to really honor the module. Panels is one of these very popular and important contract modules created by Earl Miles, and we all benefit a lot of that. And it allows you to create kind of flexible layouts on your Drupal sites. Think of newspaper site where you would say you configure different regions and you assign different content to these regions. So you can really create flexible layouts, and one of the very powerful things that panels also allow you is to override how you display nodes. So typically when you display a node, you display title, body, whatever fields you have. You typically create a template for it. So when you use panels, you can override certain type of pages. So here you see when you go to panels, you immediately see this kind of block where you say, okay, I want to override the node template, saying I want to reconfigure how somebody sees this node template. And again, when you configure how this node is being displayed, panels allows you to create variants. So variants allow you to create rules, and each of these rules kind of trigger which variant of this panel you see. So that means you can create a rule that says, okay, when I have a mobile device accessing the site, I want to see the mobile variant of this panel, and this mobile variant can contain less data or have a different layout. And when you have a desktop user going to the site, you can have panels can be configured that you just use the desktop variant. So when you have panels, you can reconfigure your nodes. When you have context enabled, you can reconfigure everything around your nodes. And when you have views, you can really override the default view you have. So with these kind of 3 simple plugins, you can go a long way in mobilizing your desktop site. So there's just an example. When you go to panels and you create a new rule, you can really say, I want to have a rule based on mobile browser or not, and there's a typo. Or you can really say, I want to have it on a specific user agent, so you can even make node layouts based on iPhone, Android, or iPad, and other devices. Whenever you do that, you can just start building your panel like you would do before. You can choose a layout and you can assign things there. Okay, short on theming. One of the things we do most is try to get rid of as much CSS and JavaScript that's being generated by a lot of the contrib modules and by Drupal core. It's often a struggle with contrib modules, so always be aware. If you enable contrib modules, be aware of which output they generate. Often they're less mobile friendly or they're very JavaScript focused. And basically the rule is try to create a separate mobile theme. There's of course a camp saying, okay, create adaptive responsive themes. You can always combine these mobile themes with adaptive responsiveness. However, whenever you create an adaptive responsive theme, be aware that whenever you change something to your mobile, for your mobile user, you're always prone to make errors to the desktop view too of your theme. So that's kind of caveat when you use this kind of things. And there's a lot of things to say about that. They have been covered this morning, so I won't go into much depth on this. So another module we have in Drupal is mobile tools. So I wrote this 2 years ago, a little bit more than 2 years ago. It's kind of experimental way in what can we do with Drupal, how can we make it easier for developers. So I put a bunch of stuff in there. So this is just the big list. Can help you doing device detection in Drupal. It has plugins for also Whirlpool to do more advanced detection and browse cap. It's also a helpful module that detects browsers. It can help you with device redirection if you choose to have 2 URLs. it will redirect a request to the mobile URL if needed. Does theme switching. You can also define groups of devices if you want to have multiple themes for different device groups. You can also create mobile user roles. Let's say if you have your site heavily depends on user roles, you could also make variants, and whenever a user accesses the site through a mobile device, he gets a mobile variant of his user role. You can force full view mobile if the user wants to get back. You can set custom home pages, hide scroll bars, hide address bars, and of course interface with build modes, something else we have in Drupal context, with panels, and actually now also with views. So there's a lot of things going on here. Here's some configuration examples when you go to mobile tools. It's very straightforward. You can just say, okay, when do you want to switch themes? You can say, I don't want to switch themes at all. You can say, I want to switch themes for whatever mobile user accesses the site. Or you can also say, I want to switch themes purely based on URL. You can select a theme, and there's some additional changes that you can make. For example, I want to automatically hide the address bar, or you can add specific mobile headers. For example, you can set the viewport size. Word about viewport. By default, iPhone has a viewport of actually 960 pixels. So that means that an iPhone tries to look at 960 pixels of your site. So if you have a mobile site that's 320 pixels wide, actually you will see a zoomed out version of that site. It's very important that you set your viewport width to the device width of your device. And another small thing you can do is you can create web clips. Meaning if you have a mobile website, somebody can easily put the site to the front page of his mobile device. You can also configure redirection. You can have different kind of schemes. You can choose to do m.mobile and your mobile domain, or just your mobile domain, or you can just keep as is. And you can also, and I don't think it's shown here, you can put exceptions which pages should redirect to a mobile site. For example, if you're not ready to mobilize all your pages, you can set exceptions. Something else that the module provides is, so if you go to the mobile site and you want to go back to the full site, and you're on a mobile device, we need to set a cookie. So we force mobile tools to not redirect you again. So you can choose how long this cookie exists. And there's some useful developer tools where you can really force using this query parameter to go to a certain device. So caching is a big issue currently when you talk mobile and Drupal. The main reason is when you have a high traffic site, caching typically happens outside of Drupal. Same question, who uses Varnish for caching? Who uses Akamai for caching? A few. Who uses core Drupal caching? And who doesn't use caching? Nobody. 1, 2, okay. So the problem often resides in the fact that caching happens outside Drupal. That means you cannot use Drupal to do device detection or redirection. So first case, if you do Drupal caching, you're lucky that Drupal is still crawling your boot. That means a module can still intercept page requests and do something. Doing something can be detect a device, switch themes, or redirect the user. So mobile tools can work with Drupal caching, and it has some example code how you can really interface deeply with caching using the page cache fastpath function. This kind of function is being used with all caching all caching modules. It's a method that's being called very early in the bootstrap. The second case, a lot of high traffic sites tend to use external caching like Varnish and Akamai. So actually what happens is a page request first goes to Akamai or Varnish, and then it looks into the cache. Is this page already requested or not? And if so, it gets this page out of cache. So let's say if you're in a configuration where you say I share one URL for both mobile and desktop, and first the user comes from a desktop browser, this page gets cached. Next user that visits the site from a mobile browser will get this desktop page out of cache. So you have to be very careful and reconfigure your Varnish and Akamai installation so they can detect the user agent using simple user agent matching. Somebody uses Boost for caching. So Boost is also a very powerful Drupal module. Boost allows you to create static files from your pages. Let's say somebody visits your website, an anonymous user. Whenever he visits, when your page is rendered, this page is being stored as a static file in your cache. And next time a user visits your site, within Apache you can look, does this static file already exist? And if so, serve that static file. Again, the same problem here. Drupal never gets to see the requests when the page is being cached. So currently I'm building a kind of solution for Apache and Drupal to work well with Boost. So if you look for examples for these scenarios, the first scenario, go to the mobile tools module and read the README file. There's a big example of how to hook into the cache and do some extra device detection and change caching keys. For Varnish, I have an example on my blog. It's too verbose to just put on slides here. Typically, it will just detect user agent string. It does some matching on, is this an iPhone device, is this an Android device, is this Symbian device, and then redirect or change the caching key. And for Boost, I will post it hopefully in a couple of weeks. It's the same mechanism in Apache.htaccess file. You're going to do some simple user agent detection. So actually, this is a real quick flight through some of the core modules you have in Drupal to work with. So if you have context, views, panels, you can create a very flexible dynamic site with it. So you can easily reconfigure things to provide a mobile view for that. If you need caching, consider these strategies very well before you start implementing. So on a final note, some talk about QA and testing. This is kind of general, not really Drupal specific. Oh, wrong slide. So there are 3 points of testing that you definitely have to consider when building this mobile site. First of all, usability testing. This is not really my domain of expertise, but we all know you have to create a usable experience. You have to have quick task completion. The difficult part is to test for your targeted devices. You can keep it simple and just say I build an iPhone website or an Android site. That's actually the route I'm taking more and more, just to make it more easy for myself and just say, okay, we're going to support some of these high-end devices, and we're not going to bother about, for example, Symbian, a Nokia S60 operating systems, or Opera Mini, or older Blackberries. Blackberries are always a problem since so many older Blackberries are still in use, and they typically have very bad support for JavaScript. And then there's a performance, knowing that speeds can vary from 70 kilobits per second, while new 4G can deliver peak values to 100 megabits per second. So there's really a big range of speeds you have there. So what I typically tend to do is before every mobile project, try to really know which devices I target, make sure that there's no surprise at the end for the client when they come up with some kind of strange device that somebody in the board has. So always create this nice list of devices, try to get some properties of these devices, screen resolution, support for JavaScript, CSS, rounded corners, font replacements, media queries. So yeah, always during the project you have a good view on what you're looking at. And different projects will have, of course, different lists. So actually this is like a quick flight to mobile Drupal core modules. Yeah, I would say I'm ending this early. It's the last session. Are there any questions? You can ask them here or just come up to me after the session or tomorrow.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. I was just wondering, you showed us the that you can change the URL redirection for mobile and desktop. Could you have different URLs for devices? I don't know, ipad.something.com.
Yeah, actually that's perfectly possible. Currently the mobile tools has only URLs for mobile and desktop. However, when you have a high traffic site, you quickly stop using mobile tools for the redirection. And actually, it's kind of straightforward in Varnish and Apache to create these regular expressions where you say, okay, I'm now detecting tablets and I'm redirecting to a different URL. And when you use, for example, a multisite setup, you can then react on this URL. So it's not possible with mobile tools. Something you have to do within your own module or maybe Varnish. Come on.
Okay, I have a question here. I see that many times people approach mobile sites by doing device detection or OS detection. I see mobile tools have a mixture of device detection and OS detection. And the problem we're facing often is that when new devices come out with different screen sizes, you have, for instance, Android. An Android device could be a iPad, like on an iPad size or mobile size. So have you worked anything with feature detection instead of device detection? Instead of saying we have a separate iPhone version, does this device support this specific feature, and then we'll serve a page depending on the feature. Have you worked anything with that?
Yep. Actually, that's a good question. Maybe I should have put a slide on this. There's a big transition of methodology on this part, where in the early days there was a lot of effort and there's still a lot of effort in collecting this big list of devices. So you have this Wordful library and it has thousands of devices, and then you try to detect, even in Apache or in Drupal, okay, which device is accessing it, and then you can even, and that mobile tools allows you to do that too, you can group devices by saying I need to have a certain screen size, support for JavaScript and support for these CSS characteristics, and then I put it in group A. I can create a group B based on other characteristics. That's like one way you can go, and there are some examples actually also in the Wordful module for that. You can create your own module where you create some rules. Yeah, and then the new way, more and more we try to just support these high-end devices, Android, iPhone, and a lot of feature detection you can now just do with JavaScript. For example, is it geolocation? Does it support local storage? So more and more we're going away from these hardcore user agent detection, big databases, but we're going to use media queries, responsive designs. That's a way of testing. You use JavaScript to detect what are the capabilities there. So this like the shifts.
Yeah, the later part of your answer there was sort of what I was looking for, because databases as Wordful needs to get updated, and so many devices come out so quickly, so you can't rely on something like Wordful. So yeah, I was more looking for maybe JavaScript detection or something like that. But there are no tools in Drupal today that solves that, or is it? Yeah. So is there any tools that support JavaScript detection? Are there any work done in the Drupal community to support that?
Yeah, there is, but I cannot recall what is named. So I should put it up. But there are tools and more tools and JavaScript frameworks out there that help you in detecting, and it's really it's a new thing, and not these big lists anymore. More questions? Okay, cool.
We still have 15 minutes, so if you have questions.
There's one question. There's a gentleman there.
You didn't talk much now about using the services module, which I consider oftentimes a more sane option when doing web apps or Drupal mobile. What's your opinion on it? Why do you integrate it as a theme in Drupal?
So actually, here I talked about views, panels, contexts, because a little bit my goal of the presentation was a lot of people are confronted with this desktop site that's already there, and they need to make it mobile. And it can get very insane actually, because this desktop site has a lot of views, a lot of pages, etc. So then these are the tools you have. However, an ideal solution for a developer would be to really separate the data from this front end. So if you have the chance and saying, okay, I have this Drupal site, I have this, I have all my content there, and I want to use a different front end framework, I think it's definitely the better solution if you have the time and the support of the whole team, and you don't get a question, we need to mobilize the site. So my take is whenever you can and try to use services then and use a separate front end, it allows you also more to think mobile first and say, okay, how does my mobile site looks like, and then design it and just start the services. So I definitely I'm pro that kind of solution, but in some cases and a lot of projects, actually a lot of projects still need this separate template approach.
And you know, is there any initiative going on as it is, developing a separate framework for Drupal integrated web apps?
Yeah, actually there are some initiatives targeted towards the Titanium Accelerator and iPhone that are very specific to these kind of platforms to provide interaction with Drupal and certain mechanisms. I think you should have a look at the mobile group. From time to time, people post some of their initiatives there. But basically, when you talk about accessing your sites to get content, log in users, create content, you could basically do with what the services module provides. It provides you a way to create nodes, retrieve lists, retrieve views. So you can go a long way with just the services module and try to use the REST server, for example. It works fine with JavaScript frameworks. So I would just say the tools that are there now are very adequate to help you build that. There's a question in the content area from here. Wait.
Is mobile tools becoming the sort of standard? Do you think, playing devil's advocate here, I'm not that familiar with, I've tried to set up a mobile site a while back and I realised there are a few different alternatives. Is mobile tools becoming the kind of standard way that Drupal will address this problem, or are there other tools around that have reasonable good answers for the same problem?
No, it will not become the standard way. I think it's too early to see a standard way emerging, even in general in mobile development. See mobile tools as a toolkit to help you build this mobile site. You could say a standard way would be adaptive and responsive designs. Consumer search, where I work for, did not use mobile tools. It just took out some of the aspects. It really depends on that strategy, and that's why actually I put a lot of focus in these first slides on think very well what you need, because there's so many options you have. And like the last question, maybe a standard way would be to just have Drupal as a CMS. It's a kind of back-end facing platform where editors or content creators create a content and you expose it through a service. And I guess more and more front-end frameworks will also appear that allow you to communicate with this Drupal backend. it's too early and definitely not to me for me to say what's becoming standards. This has been around for 2 years. It helps, but we definitely have to explore more things. And being Drupal as a content store is definitely a route that should be discussed more and looked at more for the future.
Yeah, can publish the real content like such as upload an image or the audio files through the mobile phone.
So the question is, what do you do with media and adaptation of audio, video, and images? For video, we try to rely on providers of media storage and streaming. Most providers have some detection and stream the right media to you. For images, I've worked most with image cache and trying in my templates to use certain presets of image cache. So that's a way to go. There's also a module called Display Suite, and that's a module, and the session was the same time as this session. And that's actually a module that allows you to be very flexible with build modes. And actually build modes is a very core functionality of Drupal. That's whenever you, for example, view a node, it helps you define which formatters you want to use to display an image or some text. And Display Suite also allows you to plug into mobile tools. So where you can say, okay, I want to have different formatters for mobile devices. For example, I want to have an image cache, smaller presets for a certain mobile device. And that's only I experimented with this in Drupal 6. So if you use Drupal 6, mobile tools and Display Suite, you can use different build modes. But that's really specific for where you have structured content, where you have like an image type in your content type. And then you can define, okay, I want to have a mobile build mode. I'm not including this in the presentation because it does not work for Drupal 7, so I wanted to not advocate something that's not really proven. But if you want to test with that, I would say look at image cache. And actually there are also services like tiny.src, a tiny source, and that's also a part of actually the Titanium Accelerator consortium. So if you look up Titanium Accelerator and Tiny Source, that's a service where you can that transcodes your image on the fly depending on which device is accessing it. So that's a second solution. Look for this kind of transcoders, and Tiny Source is one of the one I can think of.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering how the D7 version of mobile tools is coming along. How is the D7 version coming along?
There's a D7 version. It's functional. At this point, I don't have any plans to add more things to the Drupal 7 version. I want to do some bug fixes, and I'm definitely looking for co-maintainers. Maybe, yeah, maybe that's a solicitation to co-maintain. Yeah, so actually the status of mobile tools is currently I'm doing bug fixes to mobile tools, and I'm lacking a little bit of time to really add new functionality, new features. The last thing I added was a views integration 2 months ago. So at this point I could use help of people to submit patches and even think of some new ideas, some new implementations we can do. But it can even go as radical as saying, okay, maybe we should split out mobile tools in more atomic chunks of code. Because there's so many things in there already, I'm reluctant to put a lot of new things into it. So feel free to contact me or talk to me later and maybe have some ideas, or if you have an issue that you want to see solved. More questions? I think we have 4 minutes left. But I think that's enough.
If no one has a question, I'd like to ask one.
Yeah.
How do you use build modes with mobile tools so that you can easily distinguish? Is there a way to specify when using mobile tools, use this build mode?
Yeah, actually in Drupal 6, if you go to let's see, yeah, I'm not going to do the demo, but when you go to content types and you go to your specific content type, you can always manage fields. That's one of the options, and also display. And when you click display, you can see by default you have build modes for search. Then you can say which fields should go into search and how they should go into search. You have one for RSS, and then you have, I think, one for teaser and full note.
Mm-hmm.
And in Drupal 6, there's an extra tab there saying mobile.
Okay.
And then in
so
the mobile tools configuration page, you have to enable it first. So if you do Drupal 6 and mobile tools, there's this extra build mode available.
that's added by the mobile
But
tools module.
this is not working for Drupal 7. And actually I haven't found a way to make this work because I used build modes a little bit hackish to make it work. And Drupal 7 has a different philosophy on that.
Okay.
But maybe different ways of handling this at work. Right, thank you for listening, and hope you enjoy building mobile sites. Thank you.